You know that feeling when your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest moment of your life. Well, imagine waking up on that morning, walking into your bathroom, and finding your husband standing there like a statue, his beautiful white hair scattered across the sink like fallen snow, while your daughter-in-law stands behind him with scissors in one hand and her phone in the other, cackling like she just won the lottery. That's exactly what happened to me. And what I did next? Let's just say she learned that some pranks have consequences that no amount of viral views can fix. But before we dive into this absolutely wild story, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because trust me, you're going to want to hear how this unfolds. Stories like this don't come around every day, and I've got plenty more where this came from. And hey, I'm curious, where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below.
I love seeing where all of you amazing people are tuning in from.
Now let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Eleanor, and at 73 years old, I thought I'd seen it all. I'd raised 3 boys as a single mother after my first husband passed away from cancer when I was just 35. I worked 2 jobs, put all 3 of them through college, and somehow managed to keep my sanity intact. My boys were my world. Marcus, the eldest, became a lawyer. Thomas, my middle son, went into teaching. And David, my youngest, became an engineer. I was so proud of them. But this story isn't really about my boys. It's about Marcus's wife, Sienna. Sienna came into our lives about 4 years ago. She was 28 when she met Marcus, who was 42 at the time. Now, I'm not one to judge age gaps. Love is love, right? But from the moment I met Sienna, something felt off. She was always on her phone, always filming everything, always talking about content and engagement and going viral. She had this social media channel where she posted what she called lifestyle content, which, from what I could tell, mostly consisted of her showing off expensive things Marcus bought her and pulling elaborate pranks on family members. At first, the pranks were harmless. She'd swap the sugar for salt, put plastic wrap over doorways, hide people's keys, annoying stuff, but nothing too serious. Marcus would laugh it off, saying that's just how her generation was, that she was building a brand and trying to make something of herself. I bit my tongue. Many times I bit my tongue. Then, about a year ago, I met Richard. Richard was a retired professor, a widower like myself, with the kindest hazel eyes I'd ever seen, and a head full of the most magnificent white hair. It was thick, perfectly styled, and he was so proud of it. His late wife used to cut it for him. He told me on our 3rd date. And after she passed, he'd been going to the same barber for 15 years to keep it looking exactly the way she liked it. Richard and I met at a community center book club. We both reached for the last copy of The Nightingale at the same time. Our hands touched, and we just clicked. He made me laugh in a way I hadn't laughed in decades. He brought me flowers every Friday. He remembered that I took my coffee with 2 sugars and a splash of cream. He listened when I talked about my boys, and he shared stories about his daughter, who lived in Seattle. After 6 months of dating, Richard proposed. It was simple, beautiful, perfect. Just the 2 of us on a beach at sunset, and when he got down on one knee, with some difficulty, I might add, 76-year-old knees aren't what they used to be, I didn't hesitate for a second. I said yes. We decided to have a small, intimate wedding. Just close family and a few dear friends. We rented out a beautiful garden venue, booked a lovely little restaurant for the reception, and planned everything to be elegant but understated. This was going to be our day, a celebration of finding love again when we thought that chapter of our lives was closed forever. The night before the wedding, Richard stayed at Marcus and Sienna's house. They had a guest room, and since Marcus was going to be Richard's best man, it made sense logistically. I stayed at Thomas's place with my other sons and their families. The wedding was scheduled for 2 in the afternoon. I woke up that morning feeling like a giddy schoolgirl. I had my hair appointment at 9, my makeup at 10:30, and I'd get dressed at Thomas's house before we all headed to the venue together. Everything was perfectly planned, perfectly timed. At around 8:15 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Richard. But he didn't say anything. He just breathed. Heavy, shaky breaths. "Richard? I said, my heart starting to race. Honey, what's wrong? Are you okay? More breathing. Then finally in a voice I barely recognized, small, broken, trembling, he said, Eleanor, I don't know what to do. I was already grabbing my purse, my keys, telling Thomas something was wrong and I had to go. What happened? Are you hurt? Are you sick? My hair, he whispered. My hair is gone. I didn't understand. What do you mean, gone? Just, please come. Please. I broke every speed limit getting to Marcus's house. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, my mind racing through possibilities. Had he fallen? Had something medical happened? Gone? What did gone mean? I pulled into the driveway, rushed to the front door. It was unlocked, and followed the sound of running water upstairs. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, and when I pushed it open, I literally froze. Richard stood in front of the mirror in his white undershirt and pajama pants, his hands gripping the edge of the sink so hard his knuckles were white. But it was his head that made my breath catch in my throat. His beautiful white hair, the hair he'd worn the same way for over 50 years, the hair his late wife had loved, the hair he'd meticulously maintained, was butchered. No, butchered isn't even the right word. It was a massacre. Chunks were missing from one side. The back was hacked up to the scalp in patches. The front had this awful, crooked line cut straight across his forehead. He looked like he'd stuck his head in a lawnmower. White hair was everywhere. In the sink, on the counter, on the floor, all over his shoulders. And there in the corner of the bathroom was Sienna, sitting on the edge of the bathtub, phone in hand, and laughing. Not a little giggle, not a oops, went too far nervous laugh. She was cackling, shoulders shaking, barely able to hold the phone steady. Oh my God, she was saying between gasps of laughter. This is gold. This is absolutely gold. Look at his face. The viewers are going to die. This is going to get at least 500,000 views, easy. I stood there in the doorway, unable to move, unable to speak. Richard's eyes met mine in the mirror, and I saw something I'd never seen before in this strong, dignified man, complete and utter humiliation. His eyes were wet with unshed tears. Eleanor, he said quietly, I woke up to use the bathroom, and she was cutting. I was half asleep, and by the time I realized what was happening. It's a prank, Richard, Sienna said, finally noticing me and turning her phone camera toward me. Oh, perfect. Eleanor's here. This is even better. Hey, future mother-in-law. Don't you just love it? Oh, wait. She checked her phone screen, her smile faltering slightly. I've already got 3,000 likes in the 10 minutes since I posted the live stream. People love this kind of content. I looked at her. Really looked at her. At this 28-year-old woman who thought destroying someone's dignity on what was supposed to be the happiest day of his life was entertainment. Who thought humiliating a 76-year-old man for internet strangers was acceptable. Who was so desperate for attention, for validation from people she'd never met, that she'd do this. And something inside me went very, very quiet. Not angry, not yet, just quiet. I walked calmly into the bathroom, stepping over the piles of white hair, and gently took Richard's hand. This man who had served in Vietnam, who had taught philosophy at university for 40 years, who had delivered eulogies at funerals without shedding a tear, he was shaking like a leaf. Come on, sweetheart, I said softly. Let's get you cleaned up. I wet a washcloth and carefully brushed the hair clippings off his shoulders, off his neck, out of his ears. I was gentle, methodical, treating him with the dignity that Sienna had stolen. The whole time, she kept filming, kept narrating to her phone. And now the bride is helping clean up the groom. Oh, this is priceless. You guys, the wedding is in like 6 hours, and he looks like he got attacked by a weed whacker. What's he going to do? Wear a wig? Oh my God. Should I suggest a wig? That would be hilarious. Sienna, I said, my voice so calm it surprised even me. Put the phone down. What? No way. This is literally the best content I've filmed all year. Do you know how hard it is to go viral these days? Everyone's doing pranks, but nobody's doing wedding day pranks on old people. This is unique. This is... Put the phone down. Something in my tone made her finger hover over the screen. For just a second, I saw uncertainty flicker across her face. Then she laughed again, that same braying laugh. "Or what, Eleanor? You going to ground me?" She snorted. "I'm a grown woman. Marcus thinks my content is great. He says I'm entrepreneurial, that I'm building something. This is my job. People literally pay me for this entertainment." I didn't respond. I just kept cleaning Richard's face, wiping away the tiny hairs stuck to his forehead with shaving cream and water. When I was done, I looked at his reflection in the mirror. The damage was catastrophic. There was no fixing this with a quick trim. No barber in the world could make this look intentional. "Richard," I said quietly, "do you trust me?" He nodded, still unable to speak. "Then let me make a phone call." I pulled out my phone and dialed Carlos, our photographer. "Carlos, hi, it's Eleanor. I need to push the ceremony back 3 hours. Can we do 5 o'clock instead of 2? I listened to his response. "Yes, I know it's last minute. I'll pay the rush fee, whatever you need. Thank you." Next, I called the venue, then the caterer, then the restaurant. Every vendor, every detail, pushed back 3 hours. It cost me an extra $2,000 in rush fees and inconvenience charges. I didn't care. Sienna was watching me now, her phone lowered slightly. "What are you doing?" I ignored her. "We're going somewhere." "Where?" His voice was hoarse. "To fix this." I drove Richard to an upscale salon I knew in the city, one that opened at 9 on Saturdays. I'd been there once for a friend's daughter's wedding, and remembered they had a master barber on staff who specialized in men's cuts. When we walked in, Richard with his massacred hair and me in my sweatpants, the receptionist's eyes went wide. "I need Paolo," I said. "Right now. It's an emergency." "Ma'am, Paolo is booked solid today." "I will pay triple his rate. This man is getting married in 7 hours, and we need a miracle. Money talks." 20 minutes later, Paolo was examining Richard's head with the focused intensity of a surgeon. He walked around him, tilted his head this way and that, made thoughtful humming sounds. "Who did this?" he finally asked. "Someone who's going to regret it," I said. Paolo met my eyes and nodded slowly. "I can work with this. It won't be his original style, but I can make him look dignified, distinguished, maybe even better than before." He smiled. "Sometimes we need to let go of the old to make room for the new, yes?" For the next 2 hours, I watched Paolo work magic. He shaved Richard's head completely first, and I saw Richard flinch as the last of his old hair fell away, then began crafting something new. A short, neat style, with a slight fade on the sides. Clean, modern, sophisticated. When he was done and spun Richard around to face the mirror, I heard my fiancé's sharp intake of breath. He looked incredible. 20 years younger. The new cut emphasized his strong jawline, his high cheekbones. Without all that hair, you could really see his face, his beautiful eyes. "Oh," Richard said softly, touching his head tentatively. "Oh, I actually—" "You look handsome," I finished. "Really, truly handsome." His eyes met mine in the mirror, and finally, I saw him smile. Maybe this old dog needed a new look after all. We made it back to Thomas's house by noon. My hair and makeup people were waiting, not entirely pleased about the delay, but professionals nonetheless. While they worked on me, I made one more phone call. This one to Marcus. "Mom?" he answered on the second ring. "Is everything okay?" Sienna said there was some drama this morning, but she was laughing about it, so I figured, "Marcus, I need you to listen very carefully. What your wife did this morning was not a prank. It was assault. She physically altered another person's appearance without consent, filmed it, and posted it online for profit. That's not just wrong, it's illegal." "Mom, come on. Sienna was just having fun. You know how she is. She didn't mean any harm. She made your stepfather-to-be cry on his wedding day. She humiliated a 76-year-old veteran for internet likes. And you think that's fun?" There was silence on the other end. "I want you to think very carefully about what you're defending right now," I continued. "Because in a few hours you're going to be my best man, standing next to Richard as he marries your mother. And if you can't see what's wrong with what Sienna did, then maybe you shouldn't be standing there at all." "Mom, that's not fair." "Life isn't fair, Marcus. but it is a choice. You choose who you defend. You choose what behavior you tolerate. You choose what kind of man you want to be. I'll see you at the ceremony, or I won't. That's up to you. I hung up. My makeup artist, a lovely woman named Gabriella, had stopped working and was staring at me with wide eyes. "Girl," she said, "remind me never to get on your bad side." The ceremony was beautiful. The garden was perfect, lit by late afternoon sun that turned everything golden. My dress, a simple, elegant ivory gown, fit perfectly. My sons were all there, dressed in their best suits. Thomas's wife had tears in her eyes. David's kids held the rings. And Richard looked like a movie star in his tailored tuxedo, his new haircut making him look distinguished and modern, and absolutely perfect. Marcus showed up, alone. He pulled me aside before we started. "Mom, I'm sorry. I really am. I talked to Sienna after you called. Really talked to her. And," he shook his head, "she doesn't get it. She's already posted 2 more videos about this. One about when pranks go wrong, and another about bridezilla grandmas." The quiet thing inside me got even quieter. "She's calling me a bridezilla?" I asked calmly. I told her to take the videos down. I told her to apologize. She refused. She said her followers are loving this content, that she's gained 5,000 new subscribers since this morning, and that this is the best thing that's happened to her channel in months. Marcus looked miserable. "I don't know what to do." "You don't have to do anything," I said. "Just be here for Richard and me today. The rest will sort itself out." And it did. Oh, it did. The ceremony was perfect. Richard's daughter video called from Seattle to watch. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Richard dipped me like we were 20 years old and everyone cheered. At the reception, people kept complimenting Richard's hair. "Such a modern look, so distinguished. You look fantastic." He beamed, squeezing my hand under the table. I didn't think about Sienna. I didn't check my phone. I just enjoyed my wedding day, surrounded by people who loved us, celebrating a second chance at happiness that I never thought I'd get. It wasn't until 3 days later, when Richard and I returned from our mini honeymoon at a bed and breakfast in wine country, that the consequences truly began to unfold. My phone had been off the entire time we were away. Richard and I had made a pact. No technology, no outside world, just us. We spent our days walking through vineyards, reading books on the porch, talking for hours about everything and nothing. It was blissful. But when I turned my phone back on as we pulled into my driveway, it exploded with notifications. Hundreds of them. Text messages, voicemails, emails, notifications from apps I didn't even know I had. "What on earth?" I muttered, scrolling through the madness. The first text I opened was from Thomas. "Mom, call me ASAP. It's about Sienna." The second was from David. "Have you seen what's happening online? This is bad." The third was from Marcus. "Mom, please call me. Everything is falling apart." I looked at Richard, who was unloading our bags from the trunk. "Honey, I think something's happened." We went inside, and I called Thomas first. He answered immediately. "Mom, thank God. Are you sitting down?" "Thomas, what's going on?" "Sienna's videos went viral. Like really viral, but not in the way she wanted." He explained that while Richard and I were away, a popular content creator with over 3 million followers had found Sienna's videos about the wedding prank. This creator made a response video titled, "This is not okay when pranks become abuse." In it, she tore apart everything Sienna had done: the violation of consent, the targeting of an elderly person, the humiliation, the lack of remorse. The video got 12 million views in 2 days. Then other creators picked it up. Commentary channels, news channels, even some mainstream media outlets. Everyone was talking about the cruel daughter-in-law who ruined an old man's wedding day for views. Sienna's social media accounts were flooded with angry comments, people calling her names, demanding apologies, reporting her content. But instead of apologizing or taking down the videos, Sienna doubled down. She posted a new video claiming she was the victim, that people didn't understand prank culture, that everyone was being too sensitive, that old people need to learn to take a joke. That video made everything worse. Companies that had sponsored her content started dropping her. A makeup brand issued a statement saying they didn't condone bullying or elder abuse. A clothing company pulled their affiliate partnership. One by one, her revenue streams dried up. Then someone found out where she worked. She had a part-time job at a boutique marketing firm and started emailing her employer. Within 48 hours, she was let go. They cited behavior incompatible with company values and bringing negative attention to the brand. "Mom," Thomas said, his voice strained. "Marcus is devastated. Sienna's having a complete meltdown. She's threatening to sue people for defamation, claiming this is all your fault somehow, saying you orchestrated this to destroy her." "I've been on my honeymoon," I interrupted. "I haven't orchestrated anything. I didn't even know this was happening." "I know that. David knows that. But Sienna is spiraling, and Marcus is caught in the middle." After I hung up with Thomas, I did something I rarely did. I went online and looked up my own name. Sure enough, there I was, Eleanor Thompson, the dignified grandmother who stayed classy while her daughter-in-law filmed her husband's humiliation. There were screenshots of me from the wedding, looking happy with Richard and his new haircut. People were calling me goals and the classiest response to cruelty. I read some of the comments on Sienna's videos. They were brutal. Imagine being so desperate for attention that you'd traumatize an elderly veteran.
She needs help. The fact that she's still defending this is absolutely wild. I hope her husband divorces her. He married a monster. That last comment made my stomach turn, because regardless of what Sienna had done, she was still my son's wife. And Marcus loved her, flaws and all. The next morning, Marcus called. "Mom, can we talk? In person?" He came over that afternoon. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, unshaven. I made him sit at the kitchen table while I put on coffee. "She won't stop," he said without preamble. "She keeps posting, keeps responding to comments, keeps making it worse. I've begged her to just apologize, to take everything down, to let it blow over. But she's convinced she's right, that everyone else is wrong, that this is all a conspiracy against her. Marcus, you can't control what she does." "I know, but Mom," he looked up at me, and I saw tears in his eyes. "I'm starting to see what you saw, what you've probably seen for years. She's not the person I thought she was. Or maybe she is, and I just didn't want to see it." I sat down across from him and took his hand. "What are you saying?" I asked. "I think I need to leave her," he replied. The words hung in the air between us. "I talked to a lawyer yesterday," he continued, "just for a consultation. We don't have kids, thank God. The divorce should be straightforward. But Mom, I'm scared. Not of the divorce itself, but of what it says about me. That I chose this person, that I defended her, that I let her hurt Richard, hurt you, and I just laughed it off as her personality. Marcus, you're human. We all make mistakes in judgment, especially when we're in love. But I'm 46 years old. I should have known better. I should have protected you and Richard instead of making excuses for her behavior. The fact that you see it now, that you're willing to make it right, that's what matters." He left an hour later, looking slightly less broken than when he'd arrived. I didn't know what he was going to do, but at least he was thinking clearly now. 2 days later, Sienna showed up at my door. I almost didn't recognize her. She'd always been so carefully put together. Perfect makeup, trendy clothes, hair styled just so. But the woman standing on my porch looked like she'd been through a war. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, red, swollen eyes. "Eleanor," she said, her voice raspy, "can we talk?" Every instinct told me to close the door, but something in her face, the absolute devastation, made me step aside and let her in. She sat on my couch, hands twisted in her lap, and for a long moment, she didn't speak. "I lost everything," she finally whispered. "My sponsors, my job, my followers are turning on me. People are sending me death threats. Someone found my parents' address and mailed them printed copies of all the hateful comments. My mom won't even talk to me." I sat in the armchair across from her and waited. And Marcus left me. He moved out yesterday. He said he can't be with someone who refuses to see what they've done wrong. She looked up at me, mascara-stained tears running down her face. "But I still don't understand what I did that was so wrong. It was a prank. People pull pranks all the time. Why is everyone acting like I committed a crime? I took a slow breath. Sienna, do you know why Richard wore his hair that way? She blinked. Because he was old, and old people don't change their hair. His late wife cut his hair every month for 40 years. When she died of Alzheimer's, he kept the style exactly the same because it was the last thing he had that she'd touched. It was his way of keeping her memory alive. I watched the color drain from Sienna's face. You didn't just cut his hair, I continued. You cut away a piece of his grief, his love, his memorial to someone he lost. And you did it while laughing, while filming, while treating his pain as entertainment. I didn't know, she breathed. I didn't know that. You didn't ask. You didn't think about him as a person with feelings, with history, with dignity. You thought about him as content, as a means to get views. She was crying harder now, her whole body shaking. What do I do? How do I fix this? You can't fix it, Sienna. That's the point. Some things, once broken, can't be put back together. You can apologize, and you should. It won't give Richard back his wife's memory. It won't erase the humiliation. It won't restore your marriage or your reputation. So that's it, she said bitterly. I'm just ruined forever? No, but you have to actually change. Not just say you'll change, not just apologize because you got caught and faced consequences, but actually fundamentally change how you see people, how you treat them, what you value. She stood up abruptly. You wanted this. You wanted me to suffer. And there it was, the thing I'd been waiting for. You're right, I said calmly. I did want you to face consequences, but I didn't create them, Sienna. You did. Every video you posted, every dismissive comment you made, every time you doubled down instead of apologizing, that was you. I didn't orchestrate anything. I was on my honeymoon, completely disconnected from the world, while your actions caught up with you. But you could have defended me, she shouted. You could have told people it was fine, that Richard forgave me, that it was all blown out of proportion. Why would I lie? Because I'm your son's wife. Because we're supposed to be family. I stood up then, drawing myself to my full height. I might have been 73 years old, but I'd never felt more powerful than I did in that moment. Family doesn't humiliate each other for profit. Family doesn't violate boundaries and call it humor. Family doesn't film someone's worst moment and share it with millions of strangers. You want to talk about what family is supposed to do? Family protects each other. Family lifts each other up. Family shows up with love, not with cameras and cruelty. Sienna's face crumpled. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But you did mean to cut Richard's hair without permission. You did mean to film it. You did mean to post it. You did mean to profit from it. The only thing you didn't mean was to face consequences. That's not the same as not meaning to cause harm. She sank back onto the couch, defeated. For a long time we sat in silence. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, a car passing by outside, the distant sound of children playing in a neighbor's yard. What do I do now? She finally asked, her voice small. You start by taking down every video related to Richard and the wedding. All of them. Then you post a genuine apology. Not an I'm sorry you were offended apology, but a real one, where you acknowledge what you did was wrong. You apologize to Richard directly, face to face if he's willing, or in writing if he's not. You stop making excuses. You stop blaming others. You own your mistakes. And then what? Then you figure out who you want to be. Not who gets the most views or the most likes, but who you want to be as a human being. Maybe you get a regular job and step away from social media entirely. Maybe you volunteer somewhere that teaches you empathy. I don't know what your path is, Sienna, but this, I gestured around, this can't be it anymore. She left shortly after that, still crying. I watched her walk to her car, get in, and drive away. I didn't know if anything I'd said had actually gotten through to her, or if she'd just go home and post another video about how I was a monster. I couldn't control that. I could only control myself. That evening, Richard and I sat on our back porch with glasses of wine, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. Marcus called me today, Richard said. He apologized, actually got choked up, said he should have protected me, should have seen who Sienna really was. What did you say? I told him I forgave him, that we can't always see clearly when we're in the middle of something. That what matters is that he sees clearly now. He took a sip of wine.
I also told him I actually love my new haircut. Been getting compliments everywhere I go. I laughed. You do look handsome. You know what the weirdest part is? He turned to look at me. I spent 15 years keeping my hair exactly how Margaret liked it, because I thought changing it would mean letting her go. But that morning when I saw it all gone, when I thought our wedding was ruined, I realized I was holding on to the wrong thing. Margaret wouldn't have wanted me frozen in the past. She would have wanted me to live, to change, to be happy with you. His eyes were misty. So in the strangest, most twisted way, Sienna's cruelty gave me something I needed. It forced me to let go. I'm not grateful for how it happened, and I wouldn't wish that humiliation on anyone. But the outcome? I'm okay with the outcome. I leaned my head on his shoulder. You're a better person than I am. I'm still angry. Oh, I'm angry too, don't get me wrong. But I'm also free. And that's worth something. 3 weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a link to a video. Against my better judgment, I clicked it. It was Sienna, but different. No makeup, no fancy setup, just her sitting in what looked like a plain apartment, hair pulled back, speaking directly to the camera. Hi everyone. This is probably my last video for a while, maybe forever. I owe a lot of people apologies, but the biggest one I owe is to Richard Thompson, the man whose wedding day I destroyed for content. She took a shaky breath. I can't fully explain why I thought what I did was okay, except to say that I'd become so obsessed with views and engagement that I stopped seeing people as people. They became characters in my content, props for my videos, means to an end. She wiped her eyes. Richard, if you're watching this, I am so sorry. What I did was cruel and inexcusable. I violated your trust, your dignity, and your autonomy. I humiliated you on what should have been one of the happiest days of your life. No apology can undo that, but I need you to know that I understand now how wrong I was. The video continued for another few minutes. She apologized to me, to Marcus, to her family, to everyone who'd been hurt by her content over the years. She announced she was deleting her channel entirely and stepping away from social media. She'd started therapy and gotten a job at her aunt's bakery. I don't expect forgiveness, she concluded. I don't even know if I deserve it, but I'm trying to be better. That's all I can do now. Just try to be better. The video ended. I showed it to Richard. He watched it twice, then set the phone down. Do you think she means it? I asked. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But at least she's trying. He paused. Should we respond? If she's genuine, time will tell. If she's not, a response from us just gives her more attention. Either way, our silence is the right choice for now. Marcus started coming by for Sunday dinners. At first, he was quiet, almost withdrawn, clearly processing the end of his marriage and his role in everything that had happened. But slowly, over weeks and months, I watched him come back to himself. The son I'd raised, thoughtful, kind, with better judgment than he'd shown in years. One Sunday, about 4 months after the wedding, he brought a date. Her name was Rachel. She was a librarian, and she didn't own a single social media account. They'd met at a charity event Marcus had started volunteering at, something he'd never done while with Sienna. She's nice, Richard whispered to me while Marcus and Rachel were laughing over something in the kitchen. Really nice. Normal nice. He's learning. We all are, Richard said. As for Sienna, I heard through the grapevine that she really did keep away from social media. Marcus mentioned once that she'd moved to another state to start fresh, somewhere people didn't recognize her. Whether she actually changed or just got better at hiding who she was, I'll never know. And honestly, I don't need to know. Because here's what I learned through all of this. You can't control other people's actions. You can't force someone to be better or to understand why they should be better. All you can do is set boundaries, enforce consequences, and refuse to participate in their dysfunction. I didn't destroy Sienna. She destroyed herself by refusing to see people as more than content, by valuing viral moments over human dignity, by choosing likes over love. When the world finally saw who she really was, it was simply her own reflection being shown back to her. A husband who makes me laugh every day, who looks distinguished with his new haircut, who kisses me every morning and every night like we're newlyweds. I got my sons back, especially Marcus, who learned a hard but necessary lesson about the kind of person he wants to share his life with. I got Sunday dinners full of laughter and real conversation, instead of constant phone interruptions and staged moments. Sometimes people ask me if I feel guilty about what happened to Sienna, if I think the consequences were too harsh, if the internet mob went too far. And I always tell them the same thing. I feel sorry that she had to learn empathy the hard way. I feel sorry that she lost so much before she understood what really mattered. But guilty? No. Because I didn't create the consequences. She did. Every choice, every video, every moment, she chose cruelty over kindness, content over connection. She called it a prank. I called it a teaching moment. And in the end, we all learned something. She learned that actions have consequences. Marcus learned to value character over charisma. Richard learned that sometimes letting go of the past is the only way to fully embrace the future. And me? I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply stepping back and letting people experience the natural results of their own choices. It's living well, loving deeply, and refusing to let someone else's cruelty steal your joy. So yes, I stayed silent while the consequences came. And yes, she began to tremble when she realized what she'd done to herself. But I didn't cause her downfall. I just refused to catch her when she fell. And you know what? I sleep just fine at night, because at the end of the day, I'm lying next to a man I love, in a life we've built together, surrounded by family who've learned what really matters. And that's not something that can be filmed, posted, or measured in views and likes. That's just called being happy. And it's the best revenge of all.